Hey everyone, it's EJ from Eyedesyn.com, here with another super quick tip. And this one is how to bring in, or how to get text applied as materials onto your object. So the normal way you would go about this is making your text in Photoshop, saving it out, importing it into a material, and then applying it to your object. But this way I'm going to show you is actually going to bypass ever having to use Photoshop to create your text and having to import it in. You can just make your text and apply it as a material all inside of Cinema 4D. So just to set the stage here, we got this little ribbon object that you'll see that's very popular in a lot of infographics. And what we want to do is apply a piece of text or a word as a material on this little part of the ribbon here. So let's go ahead, double click in the materials and create a new material. We'll name this text. We'll double click on that and we'll turn the specular off, don't need that. We'll go into our color, and under texture we're going to go down to effects and go to our little friend that is alone and no one ever pays him any attention, is the Spline Shader. And you'll see if I apply the Spline Shader, you'll see we have an A and a B in our little preview window here. And we can actually change our preview view up here and change it to a plane. You can see that that's an A and a B. And if we go into our Spline Shader options, we have this text field and all these other options here. So what the Spline Shader is doing is it applies and allows you to choose text and apply it as a material. So if I go in here and change it from ABC to, say, Eyedesyn, and that'll update that that text field there. So what I'm going to do is just change this to center, and we're going to bring down the height here. Let's say 60. And we don't want outlines. Well, I don't. You can like it. But what I'm going to do is to get rid of the line width, I'm just going to bring that all the way down. And I'm going to use this fill color option. And what that does is allows you to define a fill color with this fill texture. So I'm going to go to this fill texture and just go to color. And that fills it with whatever color, which is white by default. In that fill texture field. So white's fine. Next thing we can do is first we need to actually apply this sucker onto our ribbon here. So let's go ahead and apply this material onto here, and you'll see that we have it all stretched out and it's all crazy. The one thing to get this a little bit more centered is to just change all of these values here to 50, and that'll kind of, you can see how this centers that even on our preview window. Still doesn't help us very much in our viewport here, but one thing we can do now is we can close out of this and we can just go ahead and start manipulating the offset and length values here to get our texture here applied correctly. So let's use 75 for offset U, and for offset V we'll use 225, and let's see, for length let's try 50. Length, let's do a -470, and actually this should be a -50 because we need it flipped upside down, or right side up now. And we'll change it from side to just the front, so you can see that that limits it to just the front side of this ribbon. And the next thing we need to do is that's actually way too big. So what we can do is go back into our height, into our Spline Shader. Let me actually bring this up so you can see it. And just scale this down even more. And let's see. Go in here into our material. Turn tiling off. We don't want it to tile. And then we can just go in here and adjust the offsets to whatever we want to get this centered, nice and centered here. So let's bring back up our material editor here, and and again, you can still change the height and whatever you want to do in the Spline Shader options. Change the color. What we want to do is we don't want this black background, so what we're going to do is just copy this whole Spline Shader and just use it as an alpha to cut out just that text. Ooh, need to hit paste. Dope. Copy and paste. There we go. So that cuts a hole out, so if I render this, you'll see that just our text is applied as a material with its alpha onto that green ribbon object there. So you can do it just like I did right here and apply it as a 2D material, but it can go so much further. Say you want to use it as like a bump to create some kind of embossed text on a piece of metal or something like that, where you have it pushed, the metal pushed out or stamped with some text. So you can actually use this spline shader and put it into, say, the bump channel or displacement channel and do it that way. So using the spline shader just allows you to bring in a text as a material without having to do anything in Photoshop, save it out, and deal with an extra step. You can just use all of your text in here and change your font. Now I just got to copy this and paste it into my alpha. So it's very simple, very easy, using the very underused spline shader. You can get text get text and use it as a material and apply it onto your objects. You can also use splines to do this as well, so it's not just limited to text. So hopefully this will get you thinking of how to use the very underused and very useful spline shader.